Ladies and gentlemen, it's time now for 502 Sports. Hey everyone, welcome to a special edition of 502 Sports. I'm your host, Adam Hitt in studio. We want to shout out to our friends and partner Take Thai for their support of 502 Sports, and make sure to check out our Facebook and Instagram accounts for a 502 Sports promo code you can use in your next meal at Take Thai. Today we are going to talk about the biggest event this week and the biggest event of the year in Kentucky, the 151st Kentucky Derby at Churchill Downs. The first Saturday in May is this weekend, and to kick off Derby week, we have a very special guest with us on the phone. Cameron Littell is a horse race guru and also works at Churchill Downs, and it's going to be a very busy week for him at the track this week. So thank you, Cameron, for taking a few minutes to talk with us, and welcome to the show.
Of course, thanks. It's that time of year where everyone has Derby fever, so wouldn't stop me at all to want to talk about it, just how much I love it and how much fun it is. But you're right, it is a lot of work.
Yeah, and I know, a lot of people are going to be taking off work to go spend time at the track, and just, there's big media days and all sorts of things happening this week at the track. So it's just a great chance for people to get away, enjoy horse racing a little bit. And that's really what I wanted to kind of start off by just asking you some questions about horse racing. So, I know that once people kind of get into it, they start betting on horse racing. Even at young ages, people go out to the track and get kind of acclimated to horse racing and learning more about it. But what is it that you love most about horse racing, and what kind of draws you to the sport?
Well, horse racing itself is complex. As gambling goes, it's always hard to pick the winner. No matter what, there's always a chance that you lose.
Right.
But horse racing itself relates a bit differently if you're looking at NASCAR or F1, where every car might be stock, built somewhat the same. None of these horses are the same. So the fact that you could have a horse twice the size of another horse and they're competing at the same speed and race really is just something that blows my mind. The owner-trainer politics is pretty interesting. The trainer-jockey politics is even more interesting. That, and then kind of just the prestige of the event as it's, we've run 151 consecutive years, and that's for a reason. And it's a proven thing that I get to hold fond to my heart, being from the city and getting to help put this on for everyone.
Yeah, that's amazing. No, I think it's just great to kind of feel the tradition of it, with all of the people, kind of the pomp and circumstance that goes into the Derby and the build up with all the Derby festival and everything. It's just an amazing thing for the city and for horse fans around the world to kind of be able to get the Kentucky Derby experience. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. So I think as we kind of look at the field, right, we have 20 horses this year in the Derby. We did have a couple scratches that came up, so we had a few horses that have been added in. With the horse named Journalism is the morning line favorite at 3-1. One of the things that I was noting here is that the favorite has not won the Derby in the last 5 years. So as we think about that, coming in as kind of a pretty significant favorite at 3-1, why is Journalism and trainer Mike McCarthy such a significant favorite in this race? And do you agree or disagree with Journalism being the favorite here?
So it's an answer that comes with multiple avenues of how you take it. So a few things to look at is Journalism's speed up top. So if we're looking, and the question is, all right, I'm betting on the Derby, who's the fastest horse in North America? It's Journalism, plain and simple. He's posted the fastest speed figure of the year,
right?
Undefeated on the year, and 2 big wins in the San Felipe and the Santa Anita Derby out in California. And it's impressive to say, but in both those races, he was in a field with 3 Bob Baffert horses, who's prolific Hall of Fame trainer, and he beat all 3 of them every time. Yeah. So his resume kind of speaks for itself. If you're, more of a novice to the sport and you're kind of just looking around, you recognize a few names. You recognize Bob Baffert. You recognize, Santa Anita, some of these things. He's gone out there and he's done impressive things at these tracks. Not just at short distance too. These races were long distance races. So he really proves himself there. And if you go back and you watch the clips of him running in these races, he looks like he's not running. He looks like he's jogging and he's keeping up with some of these horses. So some of his competition in these races were other Derby competitors, Citizen Bull winner of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. So the best 2-year-old, if you will, in North America. Citizen Bull won that Breeders' Cup Juvenile race, and Citizen Bull couldn't even keep up with journalism. So that's just a big turn on for prospective bettors and whatnot. But there is kind of a glaring issue with journalism that once you dig a bit deeper and you look at some of these races, the 2 races he won out in California were 5-horse fields. So
Yeah.
the competition was a little smaller. He's got to get used to having 20 horses in round him. If he can get up to that, coming out of the 8 slot, I mean, he's in the perfect slot to win. He's not going to get too shoved. If he comes out slow, that's kind of his game. If there's a rabbit in the race, he'll come and chase it down. So I think that's why he's the main favorite of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was looking at some of the statistics for the eight slot. It's a pretty good spot for the favorite to be in. You certainly don't want to be on the inside too far or too far on the outside in this race with so many horses. But we also have Sovereignty at 5-1 and Sandman at 6-1. Who, Sandman has a good history of that late kick in races as well. So that's certainly a horse that could be there. But there's so many horses and so many strong pedigrees. I mean, if you look up and down this, the Derby lineup here. Some of the big names in the pedigree and the sires for these horses is really, really incredible. I wondered if you had any thoughts on, just how good some of these sires are for these horses coming into this year's Derby.
I mean, yeah, a lot of recognizable names there. American Pharaoh, Justified, the 2 Triple Crown winners have sons in this race. So it's almost a battle again a few years later of who was the the better Triple Crown winner in that aspect. A lot of Into Mischief in this, who's proven again and again to have great luck with sires this time of year.
Right.
And Uncle Mo as well. I mean, it's really all you look at it. You don't see many horses with sires you don't recognize the name of a little bit, and that's kind of the impressive part about it is that that side of the business has become very successful with their offspring.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible just to see the names and the history in the final, call to the post for this race is pretty incredible. So when you look at the field, one question I had for you is, you look at the trainer line, obviously who's the trainer for each horse. You look at the jockey who's going to be riding each horse. What kind of history do they have on that horse, and in this race, but also the sire. Is there a combination when you're looking at, those 3 things when you're looking at a horse? Are there any combinations of those that really stand out to you this year that, make you think that, a specific horse and rider, or trainer combination could potentially pull off this Kentucky Derby win?
Yeah, I mean, a big one to start with is Umberto Rispoli out of California. He doesn't come east very often, but when he does, he tends to do well. So he's writing journalism this year. They have been told again and again when you see him out on the track training in the mornings, they have a great bond. He makes these flights straight from California just to work him out. He flies back to run at Santa Anita the same day.
Right.
That's how much him and this horse get along well. And they really have a personal touch with him. But I mean, looking at some of these other jockeys, they've been there and they've done the job. Jose Ortiz is going to be on Sandman this week, looking for his first Kentucky Derby win, but that doesn't knock the second in 2018 or the third in 2019 he had. So he's been super close to the top almost every time he's been in the race. So that's definitely something you want to take into consideration when you're looking at these horses, is that a lot of these jocks have been there and have done the job well. Flavian Prat's going to be on one as well. That's just another outstanding jockey,
Right.
up there for Jockey of the Year. But at the end of the day, they're all pros. And speaking to some of the trainers and backside workers this week, as long as you get in the race, you all have a shot. It's kind of what they're all thinking right now. So we'll see who can go the distance and really be the one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be exciting. So, you mentioned kind of backside stories and hearing things, that are happening around the track. Is there anything that you're kind of hearing this week or kind of leading up to Derby? Any interesting stories that you've heard that you can share that you just think are interesting or stand out to you?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you guys have heard much about Sandman, but he's actually gained a following from his ownership group on the backside. So Griffin Johnson, one of the owners in the group that has Sandman, has started posting him around on TikTok and Instagram, and it's become quite popular about it. He's got around 2 million followers, so it's really bringing a new light to the sport that makes us really happy because it gets more eyes on the Kentucky Derby. That's going to be a fun story to cover. He was at the post draw. I know Jason Worth, the MLB players in an ownership group too as well. That's poised to make a strong push in this year's Derby. So it'll be interesting to see. But all the trainers and jocks I spoke to have said that they all think they have a chance. So that's a good sign for a healthy field.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they all should. So I think, one of the other questions I had for you was just around, we've talked a little bit about the favorites here, but what's a dark horse that you think could potentially step in here? Maybe not like the furthest long shot or, somebody that's kind of middle of the pack here, but, somebody that you think could really, step in at a little bit longer odds and pull off the victory here. And surprise some people.
For sure, yeah. So someone you can never count out is Bob Baffert, right? So he's going to have two horses in this race, one Citizen Bull and the number 4 Rodriguez. They're going to have a chance regardless, just because of the pedigree and the quality of their training. Another good one to always count on is going to be Kenny McPeek. He'll have a horse in this race, Render Judgment, number 15, that's got Julian LePron, and that's always going to be a combination that may come out to have great success. He won the double last year doing both the Oaks and the Derby,
Right.
so you can't count him out again this year. Personal favorite of mine, Owen Almighty, broke his maiden at Churchill Downs, and has proven to be pretty good elsewhere. They were a little worried about him at this distance. They pulled him out and then put him back in the Derby, actually, so something to keep your eye on there coming out of the 20 slot. That's going to be a long race for him. If he can take the distance, then he should be in some good standing as well. But besides that, I think you have to look at Burnham Square as well. It's coming out at 12-1 in the morning line, but has the most points to enter the Derby. So trainer Ian Wilkes and Brian Hernandez are pretty happy with how he's come along. And, Brian, again, won the double last year with both the Oaks and the Derby. So you can never count him out either. He's proven he can do it. So if they think they can take Burnham Square to the finish, then it's going to be a good race.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, as people start to, go to the track this week, they're starting to look at, they're starting to take a look at the racing forms for Derby and start to kind of look at the odds. So there's a lot of people that may be going out that maybe this is their first time going to a horse race. Maybe it's the first time they're betting on a race. And, honestly, when you open up the betting program for the first, the guide for the first time, you look at it, it can be very confusing for someone who doesn't know what all the numbers and the statistics and everything mean. What would you kind of say from like a betting 101 perspective? What is something that a novice, horse racing fan who just opens up the betting guide here and just says, "Hey, I'm going to try to pick a horse." What would you recommend for somebody who's brand new to the sport? How should they pick a horse for the Derby?
Yeah, for sure. My favorite thing, and if I'm out there all day, I do love a good show pool. So if I'm picking a horse just to come in third every race, it doesn't pay out all that much. But if I run that money over to the next race, say I win $3 on the first race, and I make my second bet be a $3 bet, it's always a fun thing to keep going around. That way you can kind of follow the favorites. You don't have to look too hard in the book for a sneaky long shot. You really just get to kind of follow the chalk a bit here, but still win a little bit of money, and that's my personal favorite thing to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, that's an easy one. It is fun for groups to kind of do the show bets and try to keep that money rolling. I know that since you do work at Churchill Downs, there's been quite a bit of work and upgrades and renovations that have happened this year at the track. What are some of the things that you're excited about, some of the fans seeing for the first time this week, in just some of the new upgrades and things that are available at the track?
Yeah, so last year we unveiled our brand new paddock, $180 million renovation of the historic facility that turned it around, made the spires look better, if you could even say that was possible. But we got to explore that a bit last year. Now that people kind of know what it is, they get to really explore that again this year. Our main focus was going to be in our starting area this year, though. So we took out all the old bleachers, put in some really nice seating options, upgraded the amenities immensely. Went down there and took my first tour of it today, and I was kind of blown away by it. I'd have a hard time going back to my seat if I could hang out in those spaces all day. So it's a real facelift for the facility in that aspect, and I think it's going to be a great time for the people to have there.
That's amazing. Yeah, looking forward to seeing that. Whether you're going in person or whether you see it on TV, it should be a great experience at Churchill Downs. One of the things that's really, really important for the race is going to be the track conditions and the weather. So really quick, I want to toss it over to our producer, Ashley, to give us a quick weather forecast update for Saturday. Ashley, what's the weather looking like for the big race on Saturday?
Well, if the forecast holds, everything is looking really pleasant for Derby Day. What we're seeing right now is potentially a high in the mid 60s with a very low chance of precipitation, as well as a cool breeze that might come in as well. So that is looking excellent. As we know, springtime in Kentucky can be very varied throughout the years. Historical Kentucky Derby weather has been anywhere with a temperature from the 30s to the 90s. So luckily, we're hopefully hitting right in the middle of that. And avoiding 1989, where we actually had sleet fall during Derby Day, so nothing like
Right.
that on the books. So hopefully that forecast holds. So we'll have either a fast or a firm track for Derby.
All right. Well, that sounds great. Hopefully that remains the case, and we don't get any rain. About 20% chance there. So it should be a nice day for Derby. Um, Ashley, do you have a pick for Derby? Do you have a horse that you think is going to win the race, or you want to win?
I am actually going for the Burnham horse because of Star Trek, honestly. So I'm picking off the name, which I know is going to be disappointing to my father, but that's okay.
Well, there are lots of ways to pick, and honestly, with some of the odds, it might just be the best approach. But Cameron, before we move over to Oaks, I wanted to get your thoughts. I know we've talked about the dark horses, we talked about maybe some of the favorites, but if you had to put a few bucks down on a horse for the Derby, who would you be picking, and why?
Yeah, I'm a big Louisville guy, born and raised here, so I always like to cheer for my local and homegrown folks. So trainer Whit Beckman, local out of
Mm-hmm.
Louisville,
Yeah.
has got number 11 Flying Mohawk this weekend. That's going to be a fun one to watch, going off 30-1. Uh, Another local, Brad Cox, has another 30-1 horse in Final Gambit. Brad, having won a Derby before, another guy that has shown he can do it, and having a little local swing training your horses here pretty often tends to favor in your advantage. So that'd be a fun thing to look out for. So we'll walk in number 3 Final Gambit there.
That's awesome. Okay, I'm wondering if we're going to see some people walking around with mohawks on Saturday as well. That would be an interesting way to support that horse. But we also know that Friday is the Oaks race, right? So we have Brian Cox's Good Cheer is the major favorite at 6-5 at the moment. One challenger here could be Bob Bafford's horse, Tenma, which has won 3 straight graded stakes. Wanted to get your take on the Oaks race here and who may take home the Lilies on Oaks Day.
Yeah, I don't think we have too many clear favorites like we did last year with Torpedo Anna.
Hmm.
Horse of the year for a reason. They call her the Grizzly because she was just that impressive of a horse, and she was a beast. Average weighing a couple hundred, if not 300 pounds more than every other horse in the race, and so you kind of knew it was hers to start. But Good Cheer really does show a lot of class and quality in her past races, and the way she runs. It really is suitable to how she strides. But kind of like you said, you can't really ever count out Bob.
Right.
She's she's His horse has run some amazing races out there in California, some smaller fields as well. But just because they're small doesn't mean that what she's done is any less impressive with how her speed figures have turned out to be. So I think it really is between those two. No clear favorite this year, but regardless, I think it's going to be a tale of conditions. If we have a clean, fast track, then it should be going pretty well. But if it's muddy, we may see a long shot come up and sneak in.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think just really excited for this week. It sounds like we're going to have really good weather. I know that the Derby Festival kind of got a little bit dampened early on with the flooding downtown that stopped the kickoff with Thunder over Louisville this year. But we've had a lot of really good Derby Festival events throughout the city. With the marathon and the mini and things like that. So those are certainly some really cool events. I know we've got the boat race coming up on Wednesday. Um, but really just looking forward to a great Derby week. And Cameron, really wanted to thank you for, sharing some of your insights today with us on 502 Sports, for the Derby day. And I know everybody's looking forward to putting a few dollars down on their favorite horse this week. So, Really just wanted to thank you for joining. Ashley, thank you, producer, for jumping in with the weather here for us on 502 Sports. And just make sure to follow us on all of your social platforms at 502 Sports. And definitely go visit our friends at Take Tie with the 502 Sports promo codes that you can find on our social media platforms. And just as always, good luck if you're betting on the ponies this week. And we will see you next time on 502 Sports.